All right. I am, again, sorry about that. We were having a little bit of difficulty getting this meeting started. We hope we didn't lose anybody. I just sent out a little email to remind people that it's happening tonight, and so hopefully that email goes out in a little bit. But hey, good thing is we're recording it and we'll be able to post on the website, and we're just going to go from there. All right, so we're going to get started. So Henry Corderoni and I are here. We're just going to go over the budget. We're going to try to do it. We know time is super precious this time of year with it being so beautiful outside and lots of activities happening. We're going to try to go over things quickly, but also try to answer people's questions as well. So this Zoom is a little different. We are doing the webinar feature on Zoom for this, and so instead of the chat, which sometimes would get hard for us to manage between comments and questions, if you have a question, you just put it in tap that little Q&A, put it in there, and we will do our best to answer it. And I'm just checking on one thing before I get started. Of course, the little email that I sent out saying we're having some technical difficulties is taking like forever to leave my little email machine. But anyway, let's get started. So if you have a question, you can just put it in the Q&A. We'll either try to answer it on the spot, or we will try to answer it at the end. Or if we don't get an answer, we will try to post an FAQ later. If that makes sense. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. We're going to start just by a really quick overview and reminder. A couple of years ago, we gathered a group of stakeholders across the district, and we created a mission, vision, belief statements, and then the skills and attributes that we wanted to see in our graduates. So our mission being to prepare every student for learning, life, and work beyond school. Next slide, please. The vision, in pursuing this mission, we have a few belief statements. The diversity of our community is a strength in providing an equitable education for all students, regardless of race, ethnicity, class, disability, gender identity, or sexuality. And also, we believe in a culture of care, including ensuring a safe and supportive emotional environment for all. And this is always our goal and always what we're working towards as a district. Next slide, please. And then when we were creating this mission and vision, we came up with the vision is that every one of our students leaves our school district with the following. And so these are skills and abilities, and then the next slide will be attributes. But in the skills and abilities, we have communication, problem solving, creative and critical thinking, collaboration and independence, and digital literacy. Now, I've been reflecting on this a little bit over the past month or two because we had some work happening pre-pandemic, or we were planning some work pre-pandemic, and when COVID hit the community about 14 months ago, or the world, I guess I should say, some of the work went on hold. But the thing I've been reflecting about lately is we have had a chance as a district, and that means everybody in the district, to really put these things into play with communication and solving way different problems than we've ever solved before, and trying to think about things creatively and critically, and working well together, and working also better independently. And then finally, that digital literacy piece has been huge the last year. So in a way, the past year has, I think, really cemented the importance of these skills and abilities that we want to see in all of our graduates, and really in everyone in the community. Next slide. And then the last thing we came up with a couple of years ago is these attributes and dispositions we also want to see in our graduates. I won't read everything on the page, but empathy, self-regulation, citizenship and community, curiosity, wonder, awe, imagination, adaptability, and flexibility. And and that too, I think, has been really apparent in different ways over the past year of us learning different ways to display these things, learn these things, come together around these things. So I always try to, start a presentation talking about our values and our beliefs as a school district, and our goal and our hope is that our budget really reflects that. And so we are going to get into the budget a little bit. And so one of my goals tonight is just to, we've been doing this in board meetings, but because of, not really doing in-person meetings this year with the community, we wanted to do this tonight and then record it and post it on the website to talk about the budget. Anne Marie will talk about the fiscal side of it, and I'll talk about some of the features in the budget. And then at the end, I'm also just going to give some quick updates about the capital project that we're in the middle of planning, some thoughts about our further reopening for next year, and then also the American Rescue Plan and how it impacts some of our summer planning for this year too. So again, thanks for being here. We're just going to jump right into it. Next slide, please. All right. So we're just going to get right to some of the highlights. We have had some very successful budgets over the past 4 years in terms of, I think, really trying to strengthen the district. This is heading towards the end of my 4th year here. And 4 years ago, when I came, I started identifying some of these things as areas that we needed to focus on through the budget. And like I said just a minute ago, the budget should really reflect our values and beliefs, and that's how we always try to work. So over the last 4 years, we have increased the number of elementary teachers by 7, pretty dramatically decreasing class sizes. That I can't say enough about how handy that came in this year with social distancing and whatnot, and our ability to do that. We a few years ago wrote a grant to do 4th grade instrumental music, and then we incorporated it in the budget. We added a social worker at Beacon High School, a half-time art teaching position at Beacon High School. This is another huge thing that helped us a year ago. Is we were already a one-to-one district. We were able to, I will never argue that we did things perfectly, but we were able to slide into the sort of remote distance learning last year very quickly because everybody had access to a Chromebook right away. We didn't have to go out and look and order for some. And then also revamp professional development. This past year, due to the pandemic, professional development in terms of some of the big picture, mission, vision, beliefs has kind of, I wouldn't say pause, but with all the things that we've had to do with keeping school open, all the health and safety regulations we've had to incorporate into things, and then also just trying to have our teachers be ready to do both the digital and in-person model of their teaching, and also just a lot of PD that we were subscribing to was canceled over the past year due to the pandemic. Now we're really, over the next few years, looking forward to re-getting back into that. And so some of that professional development is focused on diversity and equity issues in the district, really starting up some sustainability work in the district, which is one of our board goals, and also, technology use, just general good teaching practices, inclusion, things like responsive classroom and restorative practices. So this summer we're excited. We have our whole leadership team attending a 3-day training in undoing racism that we're doing through Duchess BOCES. So and then we have also curriculum work too that we're really excited about doing over the summer and beyond. So we're very excited to have added these things over the last 4 years and to be able to keep them all, because I'll be quite honest with you, 3 or 4 months ago, we were quite worried about this upcoming school year And really, honestly, we were worried and starting to think about ways we could cut spending and reduce things because we were thinking that we were going to have a lot of reduced state aid. But that didn't turn out to be the case. Thank goodness. And so we're very, very excited to be able to maintain all these huge gains we've made as a district over the past 4 years. Next slide, please. So then just some, besides that, the maintenance of those things, which is huge and really helped us through this past year, which has been tough. Some core areas of this budget, beyond just maintaining those huge gains we've made in all those different areas, we are going to be expanding our pre-K program, and we're adding a pre-K teacher to pilot a full-day program. And we also are going to look into there's all of this stuff is sort of not yet come out, but tapping into a bit possibly additional state monies to see if we could even expand it further. But for right now, we're planning on expanding by adding a full day program, and details about how that will work will be forthcoming over the next month or so. Professional development, like I said, in technology and teaching practices, increasing inclusion in the district, around equity and diversity. So that core areas, technology, maintaining what we've done, supporting people who don't have wireless at home. The district this year has supported dozens and dozens and dozens of students with mobile hotspots that they are using at home. So they're able to either do remote or hybrid or just do their homework at home. And then supporting all the different student activities we have, music, theater, athletics, clubs, special interest clubs, that kind of stuff. And so we're really excited next year to be trying to kind of grow these things even further. Next slide. So over the next couple of slides, Anne Marie's going to step in and just kind of talk about some specifics about the budget, and then we're going to probably go a little bit back and forth over the remaining slides. Anne Marie?
Okay, so this basically talks about the final New York State budget. And these are the things that were included. So we did get additional state aid in our foundation aid, which we were very thrilled about. Governor Cuomo had talked about combining all of our expense-driven aids into a flat services aid, and thankfully that did not happen. So that was better for the district as well. Governor Cuomo had mentioned a local district funding reduction, and after the federal stimulus money was received by the state level, that didn't happen. Matt had mentioned too the UPK expansion. So we do have a half-day universal pre-K program right now. And there's grant money available, which we plan to apply for to have at least a pilot of a full day and hopefully more than that. So that is forthcoming. There'll be a new property tax credit for homeowners. There's not a lot of information about that yet, but that is forthcoming as well. And they were putting some changes through the governor's budget on changes to STAR. Thankfully, again, there were no changes, so that will help people with their property, their school property taxes. Next slide, Mike. So we're going to talk a little bit more, Matt's going to talk a little bit more about some of this, but just the federal stimulus money that the Beacon City School District received. So the first was our CARES Act, our ESSER fund, the number one, which we received now, and it helped us cover the PPE expenditures. We were able to put tents in the fall out, and we're trying to do some more permanent structures going forward. We bought extra cleaning supplies. We were able to add to the ventilation issues in the buildings. So we were able to utilize that money going forward. The ESSER 2 fund was approved in December, and that money is available to us currently going forward. Again, we can use it for PPE. We're going to use it for the outside shade structures. Any ventilation issues that we didn't deal with at the first time, we're going to do. We have HEPA filters in all of the classrooms, so we can use the money for that. And then the last is the American Rescue Plan. And again, this Actually, when we talk about the capital project, we're going to use some of this money to help us pay for permanent ventilation changes in the schools. There's a percentage that has to talks to academic learning loss. Matt will talk a little bit about summer school and what our plans are and how we're going to use the American Rescue Act going forward. So this is all good news for all school districts. These are the numbers specifically for Beacon, but it has us utilizing this extra money. It's not just for 1 year. It is a 2 to 3 year plan, depending on which fund, act you use. So we're going to have a plan going forward for multiple years to try to get things going. Next slide, please, Mike. And I'm sorry, this is small, but this slide we talk about at the budget, and it talks about the tax cap. So it is a calculation from the prior year tax levy. A couple things to notice on the slide. Tax-based growth factor is specific to Beacon. So it does represent some of the growth that's been going on in Beacon over the last couple of years, which allows us to increase our levy a little bit more. The allowable growth factor is really tied to the consumer price index, and this number has been relatively low this year. So the amount of money that we can increase the tax levy is not as much as we have had in the last few years. So we're trying to do the best we can with kind of what we have going forward. So again, the tax cap legislation is more than 10 years ago. We have to run through this calculation before we can put the budget up. And we have to stay within the tax cap, which we are going to do. Next slide. This slide talks really about revenue projections. You'll notice here, again, the tax levy is at the tax cap. That's our state aid number, our final state aid number through, not through the governor, but through the legislator that passed. We do utilize excess fund balance and reserves to kind of keep the taxes at a minimum and actually offer programs throughout the district. So this is just a picture of what our revenue looks like. And again, the important takeaways from this is that we are not increasing the budget by much. We are definitely staying within the tax cap. And we are not asking for people to pay more than what the cap calculation is. Next slide, please. We are also including on the vote a bus proposition, and we are asking for 272 passenger buses and 320 passenger vans. Our transportation department has been able to utilize some of the vehicles. We did not ask for a proposition last year. So this is really a continuing of just utilizing vehicles, making sure that we retire some that have a lot of mileage on them, that with newer vehicles. Again, the important part on this slide is that in the past and even this year, we do not increase the levy for the total amount of the buses. We spread out the payments for 5 years because that's how we receive the state aid for buses. So you'll notice in the bottom, it says our state aid is 61.6%. So we get back that percentage for buses that we do. So that's a great reimbursement percentage for us. So again, we will only increase the levy for the payment amount over 5 years to match the state aid numbers. And you'll see that on the ballot as well. Next slide, please. So this slide basically just gives you an estimate of what your tax increase would be if the budget passed. So for Beacon, for an average home value with basic star would be about $97 a year of an increase. For Fishkill, it would be $121 a year, and Wappinger is about $120 a year. Those numbers are less than they were last year, but again, we are staying within the tax cap, so the estimated tax increase is roughly 2.45%. Now, knowing we use the current assessment values, we don't have the new assessments, so if the assessment values were to increase, it could be that the taxes are actually lower than this, but I wanted to give the taxpayers just an idea of what we're talking about if the budget passes this year. Next slide, please. And I will talk about this a little more on Monday night at the budget hearing, but I did want to mention it as well. So if the budget doesn't pass, the district has two choices. We can either make changes and put the budget back up in June, or we go strictly to a contingency budget. The issue with contingency budget is we are not allowed to increase the tax levy from the prior year. So for this year, that would mean a cut of $900,000 to what we're proposing in our operating budget. And all of the things that Matt had just talked about that we were really proud of adding over the last couple of years would be things that we would have to think about cutting. So just to give you some kind of perspective, and in the next couple slides, I'll talk about that. So can you, next slide, please, Mike? So these are the items we have to kind of look at a contingency budget. There are non-mandatory equipment purchases that are in the budget that we would not be able to do. Certain student supplies. Facility use of buildings is an important aspect. We would have to either limit or charge full price for our organizations using our buildings. Now, I know this year with COVID, there hasn't been a lot of community use of our buildings, but we're really hoping that it turns to semi-normal next year where people can be utilizing our buildings. There are organizations using our fields right now. So we really want to be a good partner with our community organizations and using our buildings and our fields. And computer hardware not for educational purposes is also limited in a contingency budget. So there are specific things that we cannot include going forward. So those are a couple of examples. Next slide, please. So then if you vote yes for the budget, we can still maintain lower class size. There would not be a reduction. We have to look at programs like athletics, non-required music and art programs, academic electives, extracurricular, and high school clubs. So those are the things that you look at. If, obviously if hopefully the budget passes, these are all things that we can continue to include in our budget, which are really important aspects of the whole school community that we would be able to still maintain. Next slide, please.
And I realized that we never made a slide about when the budget vote is, and it is Tuesday. That's the
May
night.
18th.
My fault, May 18th. And what are the times that the polls are open?
They are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the two locations are Glenham Elementary School and Beacon High School. Okay, so Matt, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the third proposition that we're going to have, or you'd like me to do it?
We can both kind of do it. This, it's been reported in the media, and it's been, discussed in board meetings really for the past year or so. But we are selling the portion of land underneath Dutchess Stadium. We don't own the stadium, but we own the land underneath it, and we have a proposed sale to Dutchess County. When we went through a whole, land valuation process with them and came up with an agreed upon price, and we need voter approval. So, Anne-Marie, what's the amount? We forgot to put it on the slide. What's the dollar amount from the sale?
The dollar amount is $627,000.
Right. So just so to make people aware of what these funds will be going towards is we envision using these funds to expand the capital project that we're planning to put to the voters in October. So, we really don't need to own this land underneath the stadium. It's really, to be honest, kind of a burden, and it's great that the county is willing to do this, and the funds help help our facilities. So we're excited to have this on the ballot this year. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to kind of end with some quick updates on things. And if people have questions about anything that we've talked about, you can go in the Q&A and we will try, you just type it in, and then it just comes to us. It doesn't go to the people on the Zoom, and we'll do our best to try to answer your questions. But the American Rescue Plan, I'm sorry if there's some audio feedback. I'm not sure why, but Henry, maybe if you mute while I'm talking, I don't know if that's the issue. The American Rescue Plan, one of the things they've asked districts across the country to work on is planning for summer programming. So we are planning for summer programming for students K to 12. It would obviously be optional for students to attend, and we're going to be targeting, some students for certain academic portions of it, but we also are coming up with enrichment activities this summer. It is just hugely important to it is hugely important for the for kids to be not just focused on the academic learning right now, but also just activities, enrichment. We're trying to do some summer clubs, field trips that can be done in a safe manner. And it's just really, really exciting to have these funds to do this. So we are very, very excited to be putting these plans forward. Right now, we're in the process of trying to identify staff. We hope to get the information out to parents because we know summer planning is going on. We hope to get the information out to parents in the next week or two, so parents who want to be involved in this can start planning as well. We also are going to be using some of these funds to help us conduct just a social emotional review of our students, and over the next couple of months. Participation in this would be through like interviews or focus groups. Parents would approve their child being a part of this, but we want to just collect some qualitative data just about what's on kids' minds right now as we're winding down this year, which has been a real challenge for everybody, and also as we are planning for next year as well. So we're excited to be kicking that off in the next couple of weeks as well. So again, the summer planning piece. We aim to have that information out in the next couple of weeks, so you can begin your planning. And we're really excited to have the funds to do this. And this, we hope, will be over the course of the next couple of summers. Part of the American Rescue Plan also has ways to support students during the school year. We're focused on just trying to get some of that summer planning done now. Next slide. Just a couple of quick thoughts about reopening for next year. We are planning for a full K-12 or pre-K to 12 reopening next year with our traditional schedule in place. So 5 days a week and everybody back. We're excited about that. We're really close to that already right now. And really, this has been an amazing year in many ways. One of the things that I've reflected on a few times is that we were, but way back in September, which feels like a long time ago now, but back in September, we were the biggest district in Dutchess County to bring kids inside of school buildings in the hybrid model. So, and we've been working on trying to improve that all year, and now have students back 4 days a week, which has been really exciting. So just, these are just thoughts right now also that, if you're seeing the news that it looks like they're going to be opening the eligibility for the Pfizer vaccine to 12 to 16-year-olds probably in the next week or two. And then maybe next fall it's going to be open to all children. Requiring a vaccine is not my decision. The requirement of a vaccine is the New York Department of Health. If you ask my opinion, I would be hard pressed to see them require it this year when it's just starting. But it is going to be available to people who want it, and we'll look into ways to support people who need help getting it as that expands as well. I didn't put this on the slide, but there's the question of remote learning for next year, and that's something that I think probably all districts are waiting for some guidelines from the state about how that's going to work. or if it even exists. Again, so there's been a lot of public figures kind of openly requesting that the state start giving us some of these guidelines so we can prepare to meet them. But that being said, I think what I think is probably going to happen is people with very specific and documented medical issues will probably qualify for remote learning next year. But again, I need some guidelines from the New York Department of Health and the New York Department of Education to help us kind of through that process. Most importantly, we're just going to keep on doing this kind of stuff, communicating regularly to everyone about the latest thinking when new guidelines come out, the plan, all that kind of stuff, because there's lots of question marks about will it be required next year, but I feel fairly certain that we will be back to a regular 5-day schedule and really be supporting in-person learning as much as we can. I think this year we've proven it to be safe, and my hope is that we can bring even more students back, or not a hope, but that's our goal, and we'll be putting all of our efforts towards that. So we're going to keep communicating through methods like this, email, and other means. So thanks for folks for hanging in there with us through the course of this year. Next slide. All right, this is just an update, because I mentioned it earlier. We are working on putting together a capital project that would go out to the voters in October 2021, so just a few months from now. It's still kind of in the early stages. We're trying to put the pieces together. One important thing that happened was our architecture firm did a building conditions survey with the architects and engineers from their firm. And through that survey, it's something that's required in New York State. Through that survey, they identified issues in the building that need to be addressed. HVAC, lighting, infrastructure, boilers, lots of stuff falls under that. And then, they identified like sort of priority 1 items that need to be addressed. Some parking lots need to be paved, things like that. And then we're targeting for about, right now at least, we're targeting about $6 million of that 22 to 23 million going towards educational spaces across the district. And so and also what gets us up to that 22, 23 million dollar amount is we plan on using about 1 million from the American Rescue Plan, and we shared earlier that we have an allocation of 4 million. So one of the things that the Rescue Plan is asking districts to address is ventilation, and part of our project will be putting more unit ventilators in rooms that either need new ones or need them. And then, like I mentioned before, we hope to use, if the voters approve the sale of the land underneath Dutchess Stadium, we hope to have to use that money towards the 22-23 million as well. Each school has a capital project committee comprised of teachers, staff members, and parents, and the principal or administrators. And we have met with each school committee once, last month, and we're actually in the second phase of the meetings with each school's committee. We have done 3 this week. I think we have 3 next week, and then we meet with the board facilities meeting later this month to kind of try to shape this project up a little further. Our goal is by the end of June, we pretty much know what we are trying to do with the project, so then we can spend July, August, September, and October communicating to the public about the plan. So the part of the board that oversees this is the board facilities committee. Kristen Flynn is the chair. Members of the committee are also Craig Wolf and Anthony White. Meredith Hewer sits on it as the board president. And we are planning for a vote for the capital project in October. So there's going to be a lot more to come on that. This is just like a little bit, you know, it's just like a little preview. All right. I'm just going into the Q&A here and looking through them. One is about, is there a budget presentation from the Director of Security? We did not have principals or Mark Thomas do individual budget presentations this year. Their budgets in many ways are primarily the staffing that make up their buildings or departments. But we're happy to, in a future board meeting, go into some of the things that happens in that department. Is it necessary to sell the land if we already received this American Rescue money? It is. It's a really good time for us to do this because we have a buyer. This is just my opinion that the county is willing to purchase this from us, and we still actually retain some of the land we do own up there. We're not selling all of it, but we are selling the land that's underneath the stadium. I think with the things going on at Dutchess Stadium, with the I'm sorry, it's not a new it's a new minor league team. It's like an expanded schedule. It's the county was an interested buyer, and it really helps them do what they need to do at the stadium as well. And it's going to help us fund $600,000 goes a long way with the capital work with all the needs we have in the district. Will the bus transportation go back to normal busing? It will go back to a normal schedule, that's for sure. So we have, like, elementary has a delayed start, and that will be done next year. Looking forward to being done with that. But, you know, one of the things that we're waiting guidelines on is just sort of guidelines on busing with more kids coming back to school. So that there are these things that we're waiting on. We've tried to be super proactive, as you all know, but in terms of, you know, trying to almost predict what's going to happen in future guidelines, et cetera. But yeah, it's the schedules will be back to normal, and I think you know, I think the bus transportation will probably feel pretty normal next year, but we need to wait guidelines. Just a suggestion, it'd be great to be able to monitor websites kids are using in the classroom and also on Wednesday when they're home, and sometimes cannot be watched by parents, but it also says thanks for whoever in the district brought the relay portal for parents. So I will take that feedback to the tech department. All right, Anne-Marie, you may need to jump in on this one, but I think I will try to answer this. Wouldn't keeping the land be an income source for the district? You know, the rental that we got from the county was not a lot of money, and that was like you know, we went through a process to establish that rent involving you know, what's it called, assessment of the property. And Anne-Marie, what was the rent that we were collecting on the land?
The rent was a small amount. It was based upon revenue generated on that land property, and it was a rental agreement that was done many years ago when the stadium was erected. So as a revenue source to the district, it's not significant. And again, like you had mentioned before, we're only selling the land that's really underneath the stadium and the parking lots. So we're getting a revenue source this year, which we can utilize, you know, obviously for the capital project or reducing the tax levy. going forward. So it would not be a significant decrease in revenue amount by keeping it.
And you know, like I said, we weren't completely certain we were always going to have someone wanting to rent it. And part of, I think, I can't speak for the county, but part of trying to have a more expanded minor league baseball thing there was, you know, was the county wanting to own the property. And I think it really made sense from the district perspective and the board perspective to sell at this time. We do still own still some of the land up there, though. All right. Community is waiting to hear if the high school pool will reopen to the community this summer. We are, I will work with staff on that. I've had a couple requests about that, and we will get our plan together on that as soon as we can. But I'm glad people are interested in that. And, you know, some of the things that we're looking at in this capital project are, we do have these things in the district that aren't just used by students and staff, but also, you know, the entire community. So I'm not sure we can address all these things in the capital project, but we could possibly be doing some improvements to the pool or the track, or maybe even the fitness room at the high school. Again, we're not sure we can do all that, but we are very cognizant of the fact that the community uses these things as well. So we will get that plan together. Probably the biggest thing we're planning right now is graduation. It feels no simpler than last year, but as you may or may not know, we are, you know, in the past, I think the minor league season started like in July or the end of June or something. Now it's already starting. So we don't have as much access to doing graduation up there. I think our long-term goal is to move graduation behind the high school, where we have our bleachers and our new field. But that being said, we are going to do high school graduation at Dutchess Stadium this year, a little earlier than normal. And it is, and then we also have to have rain dates, and the rain dates are behind the high school. I don't know why I'm telling all this right now. It's just that is a huge planning thing that we're working on right now. But we have a big goal here in the district this year is to have, you know, moving on celebrations or 8th grade or 12th grade graduations as close to quote unquote normal as the health guidelines allow. But I think to the person who asked about the pool, I think as things continue to sort of reopen, quote unquote, from a New York Department of Health standpoint, you know, we will look to update what we're doing with that. All right. So, I have one last question here. Will any improvements be made for Roundabout Middle School? They're disappointed coming from a playground to just kind of a concrete court at the middle school. We are targeting right now, we're going to meet with the Roundabout Committee next week for the capital project, but we do have a number of things that we are looking at for Roundabout in this next capital project. It's a building that actually got some focus the last capital project, but it's a building with a lot of facilities needs. And so we're excited to do some more improvements there. And we'll be able to share more about that probably in a month or so. But thank you for that question. So, all right, you know, thanks for hanging in there with us with our little technical glitch we had at the beginning. And you can just shoot me an email with questions as well. But I'm really thankful that you were on tonight. Again, just shoot me an email. We'll also post this video hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow if we can. And you know, just remind your friends and neighbors to get out and vote on Tuesday, May 18th. Polls are open at either Glenham or Beacon High School from 6 in the morning till 9 at night. All right, and have a great night. It is a beautiful spring evening, and take care. Thanks for being here.